Businesses in Colorado are putting up signs saying they won't discriminate, even if the Supreme Court has given them a loophole to do it. The city of Denver put out a taxpayer-paid feature-length film on the greatness of outgoing Mayor Michael Hancock. But taxpayers don't own the film. The city gave the copyright to Hancock. Meanwhile, Denver's public water fountains haven't been turned on, despite the heat wave. The city says it's expensive, and they're working on it. RTD is preparing for the concert of its lifetime.
We know all too well that this is going to be probably RTD's busiest weekend we've ever had, period, full stop.
All aboard for next. Some businesses in Colorado are already signaling that they won't discriminate based on their views of same-sex marriage, even if the Supreme Court has given them a loophole to do it through a case involving our state. Tonight's next big thing is which businesses will now try to claim that they offer creative services and can legally discriminate. A salon in Traverse City, Michigan might be the first high-profile test case. The owner there tells reporters she won't serve trans customers, hoping to slip through the loophole that was created first for Colorado's Lori Smith and 303 Creative. The conservative majority on the Supreme Court said that Smith could refuse to make wedding websites for gay couples. I asked Smith and her attorney whether businesses that intend to discriminate should at least put out a sign so customers don't only find out when they ask for service and are denied. Smith's attorney didn't care for the question.
You know, there have been suggestions like you are making right now about this case and about the implications of this ruling, and it's disheartening and honestly despicable. So
now we see businesses doing the opposite, publicly signaling to customers in Colorado that they do not discriminate. Our Angeline McCall has the story.
Welcome in, guys. What can we get you today?
Business owners are sharing a message for those who worry they may not be welcomed everywhere.
2 of those.
Peter Waters owns restaurant Tiaco.
As an inclusive community, we want to make sure that we're doing our part.
Part of that, a new sign on their door.
Today, more than ever, we realize it's important to meet people where they are, and if that's at our front door, then and a sign can do that, then great.
Nonprofit Boulder County launched this effort as a message for people who fear being turned away.
We want to feed everybody, and of course we'll accept business from everybody here.
Walnut Cafe co-owners Ariel and Ash didn't hesitate to put it up.
You know, we're so happy to do it. It's needed right now, but it's just a sad state of affairs that we have to.
And I do find it confusing that it's even needed. I feel like it just is self-explanatory that community is there for everybody.
Boulder County says they expect 50 businesses to have it up within the next week, hoping it inspires more acceptance across the entire community.
We are also standing up and, you know, showing acceptance and putting that out there so that everybody can see, and especially for communities that may not be as accepting.
Boulder County says that they are really looking to target businesses like website design, like Lori Smith with 303 Creative, hair salons, for instance, accountants, smaller businesses, and even those that are not brick and mortar, because they say that's where they worry the most that people will be turned away since they can often be less visible businesses.
And this was a question that I think a lot of people have been talking about. It's clear that Lori Smith and her attorney didn't want to have the conversation of, it seems like there's one harm if you cannot be served by a business. There's a second harm if the only way to find out is to go through the humiliation of being told, I won't serve you because of what I believe about who you are.
Right, I think it is going to be traumatic, right, for anyone who steps in. It doesn't matter if it's race, ethnicity, sexual identity, or orientation. It doesn't matter. If you step in somewhere, you expect a service, right? You expect to be treated like anyone else, and you walk in the door and they turn you away. That's really traumatic. But on the other hand, what these businesses are trying to do is to really make sure that people know that that trauma isn't going to happen when they step through the door. But like you heard in the story, they say, you know, it's obviously a pretty sad reality that this is where they're at.
Angeline McCall, thank you very much. Outgoing Denver Mayor Michael Hancock's administration made a feature-length film about his greatness at taxpayer expense. The final product, a 94-minute-long ode to Mayor Hancock, does not belong to the city. We noticed that the copyright has been registered to Hancock himself. The film is called Denver Rising, the transformational leadership of Mayor Michael B. Hancock. The city's public access channel premiered the film following Hancock's farewell speech last night. The film covers Hancock's entire life story, takes a glossy look at his time in office with local figures and city employees praising the mayor at length. The city told us today it doesn't know how much taxpayer-funded employee time was spent on that project, but that, quote unquote, much of this was done on city employees' personal time. The new FDA approval for an over-the-counter birth control pill could take some of the pressure off healthcare providers in Colorado who are overwhelmed right now with patients seeking contraceptive care or abortions. The daily birth control pill Opal is the first oral contraceptive cleared for over-the-counter use in the U.S., meaning that patients can get it without a prescription. The approval is just for that brand. Not all birth control pills will be available over the counter. Reproductive health advocates tell us the decision is a major expansion in birth control access. This medication is not restricted by age. It's expected to be cheaper than prescription birth control. Those same healthcare advocates say it also removes a common barrier to access to that medication, which is actually physically getting into a clinic.
It really allows people to be able to make those decisions, move more freely, and access care when they need it. And I don't think everyone always realizes how many barriers exist around accessing oral contraceptives, even in current times.
It will help reduce the amount of folks that may be waiting for birth control or for an appointment. If they can just go to their pharmacy to do that, that's good news.
Second person you heard there from was Adrian Manzanares from Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains. So it's going to be a few months before we see the impact of this. Pills manufacturer says they hope to have it available early next year. We are getting some feedback from viewers on Threads. Yes, I'm on Threads. We're going to see how it works out. I don't know. Feedback from some self-described Taylor Swift fans who say that they're tired of all the bad T-Swift puns on the news ahead of her show. You will not hear them here. You won't hear them from me. You won't hear them from anybody else if we can help it. So Taylor Swift's tour, among other things, is overwhelming public transit agencies in cities across America. Our Steve Steger, well briefed on the no T-Swift pun rule, talks to RTD about what they think will be their busiest day in history.
When the Taylor Swift concert ends at the same time you're on your way home.
Okay, this TikTok is straight up funny.
Oh, hell no!
This is Atlanta's MARTA transit system back in April when regular commuters met Swifties at the end of the Eras tour there.
We actually thought it was pretty funny.
Rhonda Allen is MARTA's Chief Customer Experience Officer, a CCEO. She told us MARTA's experience with T-Swift was pretty smooth, even on the first night, when both Taylor and Janet Jackson were performing on the same block. It was a walloping at the end of the night.
And unlike sporting events, concerts, people tend to stay until the end of those concerts, right?
MARTA saw 57,000 riders at the 4 stations in the entertainment districts in Atlanta that night, at least 12,000 more than they would on a normal night. One of quite a few transit agencies that saw a Swift boom.
We've spent weeks looking forward to this weekend.
RTD is hoping to see a similar boom.
We know too well that this is going to be probably RTD's busiest weekend we've ever had, period, full stop.
Spokesman Stuart Summers says they're adding extra cars to trains, suspending a construction project on the E, R, and H lines to speed up trains and offer more frequent service, and they'll have people on platforms ready to help.
We do not want to be the anti this weekend. We want to deliver on the service that we are promising.
All of that is going to be tough, with the Rockies in town playing the Yankees and Cirque du Soleil going on at the same time. RTD says free fares will have a lot of people riding, and they'll do their best to make sure people don't get a sour taste in their mouth about transit.
We want to make sure that there are no spaces on any of our train, that we're able to put as many individuals onto there as safely as possible.
So I may have set poor Stuart up for a lot of that. He was a very good sport, played along. RTD is also upgrading its app this weekend with a trip planner specifically for Taylor Swift. If you just enter her name as the destination, you can plan your trip and where you're going to go. So no matter where you are. Trust me.
I will bleep you.
I'm good.
I will bleep you up with my bare hands.
So much of that.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay.
I don't need any more of it. But they also say make sure you take buses too. Don't forget about buses. Buses will get you where you need to go.
Everybody forgets the buses.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck, RTD. We'll be praying for you.
Whew.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Tonight's next question came in from a couple of you, including Amanda in Westminster, wondering if the looming actors' strike at midnight could impact the Taylor Swift tour stops in Denver this weekend.
Hey, Kyle. Do you think the Taylor Swift concert is impacted by the SAG-AFTRA strike? I'm pretty sure she gained SAG status from her work in Cats, if not sooner.
Amanda, that is a great question. Short answer, No. So I went down the rabbit hole on this today. SAG-AFTRA proudly counts Taylor Swift as a card-carrying union member. But a number of industry insiders tell us that the strike should have absolutely no impact on her concert tour because that is not work that's done under the SAG-AFTRA contract that's involved in this particular strike. So Taylor Swift did do 2 movie projects last year. She acted in one, she directed in another. And according to the strike rules, she would not be able to, say, do a promotional interview for those movies or go to an award show for those films. And it could also slow down work on her current directorial project with Searchlight. But it should have no impact on her concert tour.
It is a reminder that a cyclist lost their life, really, at the hands of a motorist.
And now it's a fight to keep a memorial in place as a reminder to drivers. It is another hot one out there today. Doctors say easiest thing to do, drink lots of water. So what a shame that Denver's public water fountains still haven't been turned on. That's next. It is hot enough that Denver's Department of Public Health issued an extreme heat alert for most of the week. Hope they told Denver Parks and Rec, because public water fountains are still turned off across the city. Denverite was first to report that Denver's 125 public drinking fountains were still turned off. Parks and Rec says normally they are on for the summertime, but the city says they haven't had the staff to turn on the water fountains and maintain them this year. Denver's homeless advocates didn't accept that. They say that public water should actually be available year-round, but especially in this extreme heat. Well, sometimes shaking the tree will get things done, and in this case, the public attention over the last few days has prompted Denver Parks and Rec to start turning those water fountains on for the season. They say there's no timetable for having them all in use. In the meantime, docs tell us there are a few steps that you can take if you see somebody struggling with the heat.
The best way to cool somebody, if it's in your power to do so, is, of course, get them out of the heat. Tepid water, not cold water. We don't want to induce shivering because that can actually generate more heat, which is not a great thing. But tepid water with a fan, elevate the legs, and as cool an environment as you're able to achieve.
Lauren Robertson, just a great reminder. I mean, Denver doesn't see sustained heat like this all that often, and for a lot of people, just an annoyance to and from the AC. But man, if you're sitting out at a bus stop or you're working in the heat or you're doing both, it can catch up with you.
Exactly, and I can't imagine not having a cool place to go in this heat, because heat is actually the #1 weather-related killer of people all across the globe. It's even worse than extreme cold, this extreme heat. So you definitely want to continue to pay attention to that, and I'm glad those water fountains are being turned back on. Right now we have a live look outside over downtown Denver where it just looks hot. We're at 90 degrees right now at DIA, a good mix of sun and clouds. We have winds coming in from the north-northwest at around 17 miles per hour. And as we monitor our heat all across the Front Range and Eastern Plains, we have a wide gap in temperatures, anywhere from the upper 70s to the low 90s to the middle 90s in Greeley and down in Trinidad. And in the high country, we're seeing those current temperatures in the 70s and 80s, almost 99, almost 100 degrees out west, 99 right now in Grand Junction. They did break that triple-digit bar, though. We made it to 101 earlier today in Grand Junction. Pueblo saw 100 degrees. We made it to 93 at DIA, so it was a hot day all over Colorado. Now we're going to be dealing with these afternoon and evening spotty storms. We do have a couple light rain showers moving their way across portions of the Front Range here, but we're seeing those stronger storms across the plains. You can see one of these storms making their way across the I-76 corridor here, for pushing further southeast, and then across the southeastern corner of the state. This is actually where we have the most alerts. All of this orange is where we do have a tornado watch. These yellow boxes are severe thunderstorm warnings, and we do have a flash flood warning as well as a tornado warning just south of the Colorado border here. So a lot of active weather across the plains, especially the southeastern corner of the plains. With this active weather, we have severe thunderstorm watches in effect until 8 o'clock. This does not include Denver, but it does include portions of the Front Range and northern portions of the eastern plains. Southern portions of the eastern plains still under that tornado watch until 8 o'clock, where we're going to watch for the strongest storms to fall there. And then across the urban corridor, we do have an air quality alert in effect now until 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So you want to watch for these increased levels of ozone again across the urban corridor. Tonight, we're going to be partly cloudy. We're going to watch for those spotty strong storms across the eastern plains, lows near 62 degrees. And as we'll cool down, relatively speaking, Friday and Saturday into the 80s here, we do have another hot stretch pushing in for next week.
Everybody was 10 and 2, both eyes on the road all the time. We wouldn't have white bikes representing lost individuals.
Each of those white bikes is a reminder that one of our neighbors was killed there on a bike. Now there's a fight to keep one of them from being removed. And some Coloradans making the most of a little traffic delay. Most Colorado thing we saw today. Next. Gwen Inglis was a cycling champion. She was our neighbor. She was a wife and a sister. Her memory has been marked by a ghost bike in the area where she was killed while biking with her husband, though that may soon change. Our Mike Grady has the story.
Yeah, and cyclists understand what this means.
Details make certain places feel special.
It looks pretty good now.
A white bike on the side of Alameda Parkway in Lakewood holds deep meaning for Mike Inglis.
It's part of the community.
Yeah.
And Keith Erfmeyer.
You see cyclists waving, motorists waving, all kinds of people. You know, she blew a kiss as she drove by, so I think people that heard Gwen's story understand the significance of it.
Gwen Inglis was killed here 2 years ago when an impaired driver hit her while she was biking.
It's a reminder of where my little sister lost her life.
This is where my wife died. This is where we were on a ride together, and I did CPR right here.
The cycling community marked the spot with a ghost bike days after the accident.
This bike represents Gwen.
But for some, 2 years of this memorial is too long.
The city of Lakewood has asked me to remove the bike.
Remove, based on one complaint to the city, that the area looked dilapidated and that the ghost bike was disturbing to walk past. The city of Lakewood considers ghost bikes roadside memorials, and they require the eventual removal of those memorials.
Everybody's been super friendly. Everybody has worked together to try to resolve this situation where one person's complaint doesn't take down a community monument.
A city spokesperson says the bike can stay until the family chooses language for a memorial sign.
You can see cyclists going up and down here all the time.
But for Gwen's family, a sign alone just isn't enough.
If this was world according to Mike and I got to make the rules, there would be a sign right here saying that this was the Gwen Inglis Memorial Bikeway, and the white bike would be locked to that stand, and we would keep it clean with clean flowers indefinitely. Gwen would absolutely want the bike here, for sure.
As long as people on bikes keep getting killed by people in cars, Keith and Mike say this detail needs to be here.
If everybody was a 10 and 2, both eyes on the road all the time, we wouldn't have white bikes representing lost individuals.
You know, we'll never know the lives that are saved by something like this and someone that does take the precautions, but we'll know the ones that don't, and there'll be another white bike.
For Next, I'm Mike Grady.
Spokesperson for the city of Lakewood says they're not aware of any other ghost bikes in the city. There are a couple of bike advocacy groups working with Gwen's family to try and keep that ghost bike there in some form or fashion. We'll have your feedback next. An impromptu game of cornhole is the most Colorado thing we saw today. Jeffrey sent us video of people playing bags in the middle of Trail Ridge Road in Rocky Mountain National Park. Apparently they were stuck in a 3-hour traffic delay and said that, well, this is just the most Colorado way to pass the time. You hear him saying it there. Oh man, we started a trend. Simone writes in to say that if the feature film length ode to Mayor Hancock wasn't made as part of his official duties, then it's a misallocation of public resources for political and personal purposes. I just think it's wild that they gave him the copyright for something made by taxpayer-paid employees. Bob says, as a gay man, as much as I appreciate your story, I'm fine with the new law laid down by the Supreme Court. The buying power of the LGBTQ community far exceeds the limitations placed on our community by a few. We do not need these businesses, Bob says. See you next time.